Welcome to Real Estate No-Co Minute. Finally, a real estate podcast bridging the gap between different cultures and helping you create the lifestyle you're looking for in Northern Colorado. And now your trusted real estate advisor, Martine Von Haller.
Hello, everybody. Today we are going to talk about relocation and the ideal process of relocating to Northern Colorado. If you are facing the challenge of being relocated, this is probably what you are facing. You must decide quickly to take a dream job in a new country. You don't have much time to prepare, as transfers are always quick, and you need to solve many issues. And at the same time, you want to involve your family in all decisions. It's not easy. In other words, it's overwhelming. The best way to manage that transition smoothly is to get prepared. In this podcast, we will explain the ideal process to relocate to Northern Colorado from a foreign country. Our guest today has already experienced this process, and believe it or not, she's about to move to a new country again. Betina Pflug is an executive and life coach with over 25 years of experience in entrepreneurship, relational intelligence, strategic decision-making, nonprofits, facilitation and training, marketing and CRM. Her international experience enables her to share best practices from a different perspective and allows her to communicate in several languages, such as Portuguese, German, Spanish, and of course, English. With a personal motto of leave every place you go better than you found it, and her organizational skills, Betina identifies problems and dreams up actionable solutions. Betina helped numerous foreigners arriving with their spouses to start a new career in Northern Colorado. Welcome to this podcast, Betina.
Thank you, Martine. I'm very happy to be here with you today.
Welcome, and I'm sure you will give us a lot of very useful information. So, Betina,
I hope so.
I'm sure you will. So, first of all, Betina, what brought you to Northern Colorado?
As Martine mentioned, my family is an international family. We migrated from Europe during the Second World War to Brazil. And I studied in an international school. I had friends from all over the world in the school. So when I turned 15, it's very tradition in Brazil that they prepare a big party for girls when they turn 15. And my mom said, hey, do you want to do that 15-year-old party? I said, no, I think I want to travel abroad. And this was my first international experience. I went to Germany to learn German. And this kind of opened my eyes that the world is bigger than just the country that we live. And I came back, I finished my studies. When I graduated high school, I said, I think I want to study abroad. So I went to Switzerland to learn French the second time. So I always had this wish to explore the world. So when I got married, the first thing I told to my husband, let's have an international experience. I don't want to live my whole life here in Brazil. So we started dreaming together. And my husband built his career in a way that he was connected to an international company. And we were able to have this opportunity to move here to Northern Colorado. He works for an international company called JBS. And he had a job offer here. So we just decided to move, was our opportunity. And here we are.
Yes, it's true that most of the people relocating to a different country and to United States always had in mind to have an international experience. So you came to Northern Colorado, Betina, and one question was everybody on board in your family for this big move? I know you had small children at the time and they were already in school. So how did that go? Was everybody with you?
So as I mentioned to you, this dream of living abroad was something that my husband and I we built for a long time. So we were both on board and we were discussing this idea with our children since they were born. Hey, one day we're going to live abroad. You have to learn English. They were in international schools. But I think when we talk about family, we're not just talking about our small family, but our related family. So I think it was really, really hard to leave our parents in Brazil, not just because we were taking our kids with us, but somehow we were very connected to our siblings and our parents. So create a structure to keep in touch with them, to have them coming to United States, to have the support, prepare the support they needed to be by themselves in Brazil was the hardest part. So when we talk about family, it's not just your direct family, but your indirect family. And it was hard to create this environment. I think this was the hardest part of it.
Yes, you have to explain why you are doing it and that you will still see them and you need to somehow have them agree to your project that it will be good for you and your family. And then once they're on board, it's not a problem to manage. But I agree, it's not easy.
And when we arrived here, we wanted a house that could fit to receive family members and visitors, because this was important to keep the connection with our previous country, to have friends visiting. So choosing the right house to be able to accommodate was something very important.
Yes, that's very, very important to be able to have the family coming to visit you for maybe a month, maybe 2 months. Sometimes your parents stay longer and you need to manage that in a home.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Bettina, what was the biggest challenge for you when you decided to make that move?
I think was to evaluating the life cost here and also bringing the money we had in Brazil to here with a big currency change. Because over there, we already had a structure, we had our investments, we had our house, our cars, we have credit, and to move to another country and migrate all this to a brand new environment was really challenging. So when we arrived here, we didn't have credit score. The currency really impacted the amount of how much we could invest in a house here, buying a car. So this was the hardest part, I think, financial planning and how to better do this.
Yeah, I think financial planning is very, very important because systems are different and Brazil is different from United States, Europe or France, Germany is different from the American system. And you have to plan for retirement to make sure you will be able to retire one day. And when you change system, you have to adapt yourself in a new system. Did you have an advisor, Bettina, in Brazil before you left to help you figure out what to do?
No, we had to figure everything by ourselves, like evaluating the life cost here, how to bring the money. But we had other friends who experienced this relocation process and we talked with them. I think this was the most important part of it. We had a couple who were working for a tech company that moved 6 months before us to United States, and they were talking about their experience. The company they work for recommended a credit union for us, for them to do the mortgage. And they said, this special credit union consider your bank historical data from Brazil. So we were very lucky to be in touch with this credit union before we moved. So we started the process, I think, 4 months before we moved. We contacted them. They were located in the Silicon Valley, and For our luck, we figure out that they have a branch here in Northern Colorado because of the HP presence here. So it was really nice. We were able to send all the documentation we had from our banks in Brazil. And when we arrived here, we had like credit letter that we could use to buy a house. This was super helpful. And we started this 4 months before we moved.
Okay, so anticipation, being prepared is extremely important. So Betina, what did you do when you arrived here?
So the first thing we did was to map all the schools, because it was super important for us to find a good school for our kids. So my husband was mapping and put everything in a big map, and we were able to visit different schools and choose the ones we wanted our girls to study. But the first thing was really not just evaluating the school, was to find a realtor that could speak different languages, that were more patient with us. And this was very helpful. We visited, I think, 25 houses in 3 days the first time we came, because we really wanted to have a house. We have evaluated the difference between renting and buying, and we decided we wanted to buy right away. Right now, I regret. I think we should like at least waited 6 months to get to know the areas before we bought. But this was our thought at that moment. So we had a help from our one international realtor that really, really helped us out.
Yeah, that's great to get help immediately when you arrive and get an idea of where you could live, how much it would cost, the neighborhoods, the schools, and how you can recreate a lifestyle. So you got help mainly through your real estate agent. Is that correct?
Yes, she helped us out, visit the schools, and talked about the difference of the schools, the neighborhoods, and we were able to choose the areas that we wanted to live. But like I said, we had this letter, a credit letter, saying that we could buy a house on X amount, and the housing, the schools that we like were in a neighborhood that were more expensive of what we could afford. So we had to choose our second option, not our first option, a house a little bit farther away, but still in the school system that we wanted. And it was really nice. We weren't able to move directly to Fort Collins as we wanted. We found the house in Windsor, but it was great. We really liked having our own house. We lived for a month in an apartment that was furnished, was really nice. But then we found a house and we were able to move to Windsor.
Oh, that's great. So you came to United States with a pre-approval letter. So you knew how much you could afford and how much your payment would be. And that is very, very important, because you need to know how much you can afford and what will it cost to you each month.
Yes, I think the proposal my husband received for his job was very important to get this letter, and also to buy a car. For everything, we had to show the proof that he had an offer letter. So this was super important as well to embase our process here.
Yes, what you are saying is that in order to get the pre-approval letter from First Tech Credit Union, you need to send immediately your offer letter so you can be pre-approved in the Foreign National Program from First Tech.
Yes, and also to buy a car was really important, because we didn't have credit history, like I said. So the second step was to buy a car, and we needed that for the car as well.
So Betina, you said that you rented for a month, but you also said that if you would come again to the United States, you would like to spend like 6 months in a rental before buying. Why that?
It's not just about the type of the house that you buy, but the lifestyle. And it's hard with just one visit to figure out the lifestyle you want to live. what is the environment, how much you need to drive, and also the 4 seasons of the year. When it's winter, it's totally different the way you drive here, how long it takes to get to places. So 6 months to a year, it's the ideal time for you to get to know the area. What do you like? What you don't like? What places do you normally go? What gym do you like to go? So I think spending some time renting, it's very wise. But the other part of it is that when we were renting, our kids were attending a school, and when we bought the house, they had to change. So you have to counterbalance this if you're able to afford a house in the same neighborhood that you're renting to buy. We couldn't, so we had to change our kids' school. That's why it was good for us. They spent just 1 month in this school, and then they went to their the final school.
So what you are saying is that it's important to identify where you can live and afford to live before you come, so you can make a decision up front to rent in the neighborhood where you potentially can afford to buy.
Yes.
And not in a different neighborhood. Yeah. So you don't
Yes,
have to
absolutely.
change your kids' schools and friends and so on.
Yes, the adaptation of the kids in the school are hard for them as well. So moving schools is not a smart move. So once you choose wisely, and then start developing the roots and the friendships in the school. It's super important.
So that make me think that it's also important to have a preview trip before you come for 1 week and meet with a real estate agent or someone who can help you to explain the neighborhoods, the costs of living in that neighborhood, and decide roughly where you want to live and can afford to live. So then when you come, you are already in a neighborhood where you know you can buy, but you first start to rent.
I totally agree with you. And this trip that we did just for 1 week was also good because we brought a lot of our luggage, and then we found a place to storage our stuff. We bought some boxes, and we brought all our luggage empty back to Brazil, and then we came again with more things. So it was very helpful also to bring our stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Bettina, was English a barrier for you? I see a lot of people arriving where sometimes the spouse doesn't speak English and has to learn it. So you came and you were speaking English, but was it still a barrier for you? And how did you improve it?
English is always a barrier for a foreigner. I think mainly for the kids was the most difficult part of it. So when my daughters arrived, they couldn't speak very well English. I was really worried. We arrived on May. They had just like 3 weeks at school, and then summer came and they didn't have classes anymore. So I was able to find an English teacher that supported them during summer, giving private lessons with a book that the school recommended, so they could get used to the school system, they could get used to English. It was very helpful. We had her for at least 3 months. But not just learning English is important, learning about the culture. So the first thing we did when we arrived was to look for a scout troop. My kids have been attending to international scouting for a long time. So when we arrived here, we found international scouts, and they welcome us in their troop, and we were able to learn about the culture in a fun environment. This was super important for our kids. They were able to play the same games they're used to play in a safe environment and develop their vocabulary, their language skills. So when school arrived after summer, they were feeling better prepared. They had friends already. It was super important for my kids. Talking about myself, for me, was a challenge too. I look like a 15-year-old talking. I couldn't express my professional ideas. So what I did was I started enrolling myself in several courses of things that I used to like. So the city of Fort Collins, they offer several courses throughout the year. For example, how to take pictures with an iPhone, how to train a dog, any kind of sports, yoga. So all the hobbies that I had, I try to find trainings on this area, like flower arrangements, so I can improve my vocabulary and be exposed with the local culture. I did this the whole summer, and this really helped me. When summer was finished, I hired a coach to help me out, figure out about my career. So I had 3 months to improve a little bit my language skills. And then I had the support of a coach to define my career.
Yeah, so getting prepared to be fluent or in English is also super important. And Bettina, you did it through your hobbies and your kids' hobbies, which always helps to improve because you want to talk, so you need to learn. And we need to realize that if you want to live in a foreign country, you need to speak the language and make friends and go out and improve your English skills.
Yes, I know a lot of Brazilians who arrive here and they stay in their Brazilian community and they don't develop themselves. So what I tried to do was to expose myself as much as I could to the local culture, participating in trainings, making American friends, learning about our culture, and this made a huge difference.
Yeah, that's super important to try to get integrated in the community, in the neighborhood, and have friends from all over.
That's true.
How did you adapt your kids? How did you manage the school transition with them?
So one of the hardest part was that the school year in Brazil starts in January and finish in December. When we arrive here, the school system is totally different. It starts in August. So we had to decide if we were going to take our kids 6 months back or forward. And because of their language skills, we decided to bring them back. So it was hard for them. All their friends are graduating early, but I think in long term was very beneficial because they didn't need to worry about the school content, much more about the language to acquire the language skills and then catch up with the school. So putting them 6 months early, 6 months back helped a lot for their adaptation. And like I mentioned, also have activities and hobbies that they like, so they could improve their skills.
So what you are saying is super important when you arrive is to put the priority on the language and not what you are learning, the subject. So you lose a little bit of time, but at the end, it's beneficial to the kids.
Yes, for sure.
So in Brazil, you had a successful career and you had to stop working. How did you rebuild your career when you arrived here?
As I mentioned before, it was super important to have some help with a local person who understood the culture, who have been facing similar things. So I hired a coach to redefine what was my wish at that moment. And she did a great job evaluating what my goals were, what I wanted to accomplish, what skills I had to develop to be able to really immerse myself in the work environment. And I worked with her for 6 months. And with her help, I was able to create a company and start working in the field that I wanted. It was something totally different that I used to do in Brazil. But I learned so much, and I'm super thankful to have a coach help to redefine my career at that moment. Because my husband had his job, he was happy, he was growing, and I had to start from scratch. I used to own a marketing company in Brazil. When I came here, I had the chance to start from scratch again. This is a good opportunity if you see the half cup full, not the half cup empty. But you have to have some help to create a plan on how to get there.
Yes, you really have to. Yeah. especially if you had a career in a corporation abroad in your home country. You have to give it up and you have to figure out how to start again, because most likely you won't be able to stay with that corporation because they don't have an office where you are moving, or they don't have a position for you. So you have to reinvent yourself like you did, and like many people arriving here are doing.
Yes, it's super important. And it's an opportunity to grow. So just being open and find the ideal help. That's my advice.
We talked earlier about the cost of living and how you want to recreate your lifestyle or a lifestyle you like in northern Colorado. So how can you make it work if the cost of living is higher than in your home country?
My advice in regards to cost of living is keeping track of your expenses in your original country. We had this historical data of the past 10 years in Brazil, how much we spend with transportation, food, school, health. And after staying here for 3 months, we talked with several other couples that were here to evaluate how much they spend in each of those areas. So we did a budget for our year. And we had to do some adjustments. For example, owning a dog in Brazil is not that expensive as it is here. Here, a cost of owning a dog could be around $2,500 a year. So we had to do some adjustments. The food here is also more expensive compared to Brazil, because in Brazil, we cook from scratch. You buy the vegetables and you have normally someone helping at your house with cooking. And here you buy a lot of made food, so the cost is a little bit higher. So we had to adjust and cut some other expenses to be able to be on the budget. But keeping track of your expenses in your country and talking to other couples that already been here and do a comparison to create a budget for the year when you arrive, it's super important. And be open to do the adjustments, because you're not gonna make it 100% as you plan. Things will come up. For example, maybe you need to find an orthodontics for your kids, or an health emergency. So be prepared for unexpected things.
Yes, there are differences and you need to know them so you can evaluate what you can spend where and make a new life or design a new life you like and you're happy with.
I agree with you.
Another question I would like to ask you, Bettina, were you welcomed by the community, or did you feel welcomed by the community?
Here in Northern Colorado, people are very friendly, but I figure out that you have to put yourself out to be able to get to know people. So the first thing I did was to join the Fort Collins Chamber and attend to their red carpet meetings. So once a week, they have a group of people who visit new businesses. It's a group for more than 150 people. And I was able to visit a lot of places, get to know the community, and also involve myself a lot in volunteer work. So I chose some nonprofits that I admire, and I volunteer myself to work with them to get to know the community. And like I said, being open to get to know the local people really change your world, because you'll be able to immerse yourself in the new culture. So I felt welcome when I came here, but I think it was because I was open to get to know people.
Yes, you need to be open and you need to talk with people, invite them so you can create new relationship in a new country.
I agree with you.
We agree on almost everything. What about the health system? Was it a surprise to you?
It was really complicated. The HR of the company never explained very detailed how the health system work. And one time that we needed to use the emergency hospital was very expensive. Like we spent like more than $3,500 just for one little visit before our trip. So we decided not to be sick here. It's too expensive. It's complicated to understand. And I've been investing a lot of prevention things not to get sick instead of investing in the health system. But it's complicated if you have someone helping you understand about the health system and what the company provides to you as insurance. This is very helpful.
Yeah, to
It's
understand.
complicated.
It's very complicated, and you need to understand deductible, out of pocket, and your yearly out of pocket, etc. So you need to get help to understand the health system. And once you know how to navigate it in that health system, I think it's okay. You just need to learn how to use it.
Yes, but what I would say something helpful is that the health system here provide language support. They have translators if you need, and also if you are part of community groups. For example, I'm part of a Brazilian group. We text each other, and I was able to find doctors and even a dentist who could speak Portuguese. That was very helpful at the beginning once we arrived.
Yes. And there are some physicians speaking foreign languages, so you can try to find them in the community and just go and see them. The transportation system, so in Europe and probably in Brazil, we have a lot of transportation options. Here you have to drive everywhere. So how did you feel about that?
It was really hard for me to adapt, but in a good way. In the city that I come from, São Paulo, we have 22 million people living, a lot of traffic. So for me, it was strange coming here and not having traffic. It was really, really strange. And you cannot find a bus to go. You really have to drive. So I was afraid of driving here, of putting gas in the car, because in Brazil, you have services to do that for you. Someone to wash your car and to do everything for you. Here, you have to do everything yourself. It was challenging for me, but good things you get used very easily. So it's easy to park, it's easy to drive here. You just have to have a good GPS and then you're good to go. Here, it's not difficult. The only thing is that you cannot rely on public transportation, just on having your own car.
Yes, that's something I would like to emphasize, is that when you move to United States, one of the spouses is working and need a car, but the second one need a car as well. And I would say pretty quickly, because you need a car every day to go everywhere, to school, to the grocery stores. You cannot just walk or take a bus to go to somewhere. So it's part of the budget, buying 2 cars.
And something important we did is a training to learn how to drive in the snow, because it can be dangerous for you when it's icy and you have to drive. So we attended to some trainings on how to drive in this cold weather. And also I wanted to ride a motorcycle. So I did a training on how to ride motorcycles here too. Just keep learning and you're going to adapt yourself. Just look for help and you'll find it here.
Betina, how did you make friends and started a new social life?
As I mentioned before, it was super important to join the chamber, the local chamber. For those who have the entrepreneur soul and wants to start your own business, it's super important to get to know other entrepreneurs. And that was the path that I decided to. So I started my social life by becoming friends of my kids at school. They had friends, so I started talking with their parents of their friends in the school environment. The second step was to do the courses of the hobbies that I like it, so I could find people that like the same thing that I did. And the third one was by joining the chamber. So I tried different things and I made several friends that enriched my adaptation here.
Yes, so you must be open, and you need to go towards people and talk with them to start to get new friends and new relationships and be part of the community. Did you enjoy learning more about the American tradition?
Yes, and this is something I did throughout the scouting program. First of all, learning about American values was hard for me to understand boundaries. In Brazil, we don't have boundaries, and here, everywhere you go, people have these personal boundaries. Even in the supermarket, there is a way for you to go back and forth. Everybody says, excuse me. This is not common in a Latin culture. So learning about these boundaries, the scouting program provides a lot of experience where you can learn about American culture. So we volunteer a lot, we do a lot of social work. So I was able to immerse myself in the American traditions by just attending to scouting events like 4th of July, Thanksgiving events, and Halloween. How they celebrate things are totally different from our country, but just being open to learn their traditions is the most important part, because your kids are going to be attending to school with other kids that are used to that, and they will like to learn. So if you support themselves on this learning process, this will make a huge change.
Yes, that's super important to try to understand the local tradition and be part of it, essentially.
For sure.
Thank you so much, Betina. So when you arrive in the United States, you have a lot to learn. You have to create a new life in a new country, make new friends, try to make everything easy for your family. There is a lot to do. You need also to find your dream home, and you want to feel comfortable and have your entire family feel comfortable. You need to find help, and there is help for you. Betina can help you as a coach, and she can help redefine your career. One of you probably has an established career path, but your spouse probably needs to redefine her or his professional path. Don't hesitate to contact Betina for any help you may need. She is a great resource. Thank you so much, Betina, for attending this podcast and helping newcomers from foreign countries to arrive in Northern Colorado.
I need to thank you, Martine. And so for all your clients that contact me and want to schedule a 1-hour consultation, I will offer this 1 hour for free to talk about your career path. You just have to contact me by email. It will be probably on the description of this podcast. And just mention that you work with Martine Bonho. And working with Martine Bonho made a huge difference in my life too. As she mentioned, I'm moving now to Australia, and she was the one who helped me sell my house really fast and prepare myself for my next move. So if you need help selling or buying here in Northern Colorado, I totally recommend her. She helped us out, not just selling the house, but understanding about taxes, how can we better use our resources here locally. Thank you, Martine. You're an amazing resource for anyone who wants to find a home here.
Thank you, Betina. And I wish you a wonderful new start in Australia.
Thank you so much, Martine. It's been a pleasure working with you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Real Estate No-Co Minute. To hear past and future episodes, please subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast channel. We appreciate your reviews and suggestions for future show topics. If you have any questions or a suggestion, please write to us at podcast@realestatenoco.com. For more real estate information, go to our website, www.realestatenoco.com.